push and pull and that there's compromise. But we're standing here on behalf of the community, making sure that this can be the best consent decree that it can be. So we are making these suggestions so that the voices of the aggrieved are heard, the voices of the aggrieved can be heard throughout the entire process. One of the things that we've talked about from the beginning is really having input, community input, before, during, and after the consent decree has been signed. And one of the things that we played a large role in, we developed a 20-page report, the Collaborative for Safe, Fair, and Just Cleveland, developed a 20-page report, which actually has had some influence and shape on what the consent decree looks like. I mean, we push for community trust building, we push for a community police commission, we push for community engagement throughout the entire process and community input, community voice. And so that's what we will continue to do, to push for community voice and community input. I think it's really important that at this stage of the game, that the voices continue to be heard. And as Julia said, we were expecting an opportunity for a fairness hearing. We're expecting an opportunity to share some of these issues prior to the signing of the consent decree. And so now we find ourselves in a place where all of us, many of us, Julia and myself and Ed and James, we were all in court that day.
Well, why were you expecting that?
We were told we would have the opportunity to chime in, to share with community, to get feedback from community, and to share our views with the DOJ, Department of Justice. We've had multiple conversations before. We've met with the mayor, we've met with city council, we've met with the DOJ, and so we are consistently, vigorously, and continuously engaging in a process of opening this up to community and making sure that community voice is heard. So that's what's really important.
If you had to sum it up, what would you say about the changes you're proposing? What impact will these changes have overall on the implementation of the consent decree?
We acknowledge that this is a very good consent decree. However, we want better than good. We want perfection to the extent that it can be achieved. So we're tweaking the consent decree. We're making suggestions to all of the parties, not just to the city of Cleveland, or for that matter, the Department of Justice. But we feel that the perception of fairness, of openness, of lack of bias is such a vitally important component of any agreement that we feel that we've got to bring this to the attention of the court, to the Department of Justice, as well as to the city of Cleveland. Hopefully the parties that are involved will see the wisdom in what we have recommended and make appropriate adjustments.
So you have no confidence that the police can investigate themselves?
We have all the confidence in the world, but by the same token, we want to be prepared. And to the extent that we have had issues in the past with either lack of competence, lack of willingness, or simply a desire to sweep it under the rug, we want to be sure that we have the best possible objective investigation.
That's not very complimentary of your skills to investigate themselves, is it?
Terry Gilbert probably has a lot more to say about that than I.
I mean, the focus of the DOJ findings was the fact that for so many years, the history of this department demonstrated that it was incapable of policing itself. That is a bedrock fact that gives rise to all the problems we've seen over the years with police excessive force. So what we're asking for is something basically based on common sense. And many enlightened jurisdictions around the country have opted to avoid the appearance of conflict, impropriety, bias by allowing other jurisdictions, law enforcement jurisdictions, to do the investigations. We've been involved in many deadly force cases where the use of force investigation team has been involved, and their investigations have been wholly inadequate. They're way behind the times in proper investigative techniques, follow-up reports, interviews. We have situations where at the scene of a police shooting, officers are represented by unions who tell them not to speak, not to give their statements. And many of those cases in which the city has found that the use of force was justified turned into multi-million-dollar verdicts against the city of Cleveland. So we think it's in everybody's interest take a pause and really show the community that these investigations are going to be fair and independent. And the way the consent decree is written allows for the City of Cleveland Police Department to investigate their own shootings. This is not the way of building a progressive policing institution in Cleveland. So we hope that the parties to this consent decree rethink some of these issues. There's always room for improvement. We stand behind the consent decree. We feel that the community interest sometimes gets lost in the shuffle. And we want to put pressure on the parties to see our points and to make modifications as this thing goes forward.